It's worth telling the story of the ambulance that you started into because of the medical billing issue that was.
Yes.
You want to start into that?
Yeah, so we had our fourth baby. This is the one with the C-section. She was 12, 13 months old at the time. And there's some things that I do want to mention that I thought were interesting. At that point, I think we had a lot of, compared to our first and second and third child, we had really made an effort to understand more about our bodies and health and some of these procedures that we're doing. And she got sick with croup, and I knew what it was, and I knew kind of what to look for. But when she got really sick, I remember just being at home, she turned purple, and immediately I was like, okay.
You kind of panicked.
I panicked because we had the fibrillator, is that what it's called? The
oxygen mask.
It was like an oxygen mask because, she was having a hard time breathing. So, but at that point that wasn't working. She wasn't wanting it. She turned purple. So we rushed to the hospital, and, they hooked her up and they gave her all the medicine she needed, and it was helpful. And I'm really glad that there were some things that I couldn't do at home that they were able to do at the hospital. But they didn't have all the equipment necessary for her there, so we had to move her.
It was a new hospital.
It was a new
really
hospital.
Close to our house.
2 minutes from our house. I mean, if there was traffic, you better off
running.
running.
There was an awesome children's hospital at the time we lived in Utah. So there's an awesome children's hospital in Salt Lake City, which was, a 30-minute ride.
Right. And so they said it would be best to transfer her to that children's hospital. We don't have all the equipment if things progress in her situation. And so we decided that was fine.
Well,
but
they wanted an ambulance ride.
they said, we think, we'll take her in the ambulance. And we said, we can just put her in the car. She seemed like she looked stable, so I thought, I'll just put her in the car and we'll go. But again, they were frustrated because...
Well, because, if you remember, because we knew that our health share, our choice of plan didn't cover ambulance rides. Because we had just paid for an ambulance transfer 6 months earlier from the same hospital to the same hospital with our other child.
And we had to pay that out of cash, and we didn't get it reimbursed.
Yeah, and it was like $1,400. So it's not the end of the world, but it's like, well, I don't see imminent danger if we drive the baby to the hospital. She's not going to die in the next half hour. But when they're being kind of like, well...
If you happen to need the oxygen and you don't have it, then it's a life and death situation.
And what are we thinking? Like, shoot, I don't want to let $1,400 get in the way of my child's well-being.
Of course.
All right.
So we said, okay, that's fine. And it took a really long time for to get her hooked up, and they were calling here and there, and I was just wondering why it was taking so long. The ambulance team for that hospital was not available, so the Life Flight team had to come in
an ambulance on four wheels.
in a regular ambulance and take her.
But we didn't know that.
No.
Not till when?
Till I was wondering why the bill was so high. So, anyways, the whole story's great. Things turned out well. She went home eventually, but then the bills start coming in, and that's when I start to make the phone calls to negotiate the prices and saying, okay, if I paid all right now and all those things. So then the ambulance ride seemed very expensive. I looked from $1,200 to $1,400. Ours was more like $8,500.
Which, for context, your whole bill when we did the C-section was less than $9,000.
Right.
We paid, by the time we talked to everything, hospital stay, surgery, everything was like $8,300.
Right.
Something like that. So our ambulance ride that was optional ended up being more than your entire experience having yourself cut open from side to side, a baby pulled out of your body and stitched back up.
Yeah. So
and staying at the hospital for a couple days.
I was 100% sure that there was a mistake, that they had misbilled me or double billed or something. And so I called them, I went through it, they sent me the itemized statement, and realized that it was because we were paying for the ambulance, the full bill for an ambulance to take our baby from hospital A to hospital B, and we were paying for the Life Flight team as if we had written the helicopter and used them for the it was actually 45 minutes, for the 45 minutes. And the reason we had to do that is it was a short ride, but it was 45 minutes because there was a snowstorm at the time. So we paid for 45 minutes of Life Flight. And ambulance. So together, it was $8,300, $8,500, and it just seemed so bizarre. I'm like, how is this so? And I said, I'm not paying it. But and they brought it down, but we still had to pay some.
Yeah, like $5,000 or something. Now I know a lot of things that we could have done to get that down, or say that is silly. That's a violation of our rights. But at the time, we were just like, they sent us to collections. We were getting our credit scores getting dinged and stuff. It's like, well, how do you make a decision in this situation?
We just paid it and be done with it.
Right. So that's where like the ugliness of the system shows is we're grateful to get good care. We had a bad situation. It didn't need to cost that much.
No.
That's unreasonable. And so having a system that helps to knock those things down is critical to experiencing care differently and not having such incredibly, you have to realize that we're pretty conscientious. People are having this experience across the board, and people with 1,000 employees in their medical plan, when their claims costs are up from year to year and all this type of stuff is happening, that drives costs up across the board.
And I think a lot of it too is you realize that when there's a lack of knowledge and you feel you're in a situation where you don't understand, you give up the ability to make choices.